Hey everybody, this is the Blockernator here again, and, well, you probably already know that. You're on my channel after all. Anyway, today I'm going to be doing a commentary on a video by the most pompous anime reviewer on YouTube, BobSamurai. So if you haven't seen my last video, I brought up an altercation we had in the comments, and today, as promised, I'm going to talk about that video he posted that set off this whole thing. Now, normally I wouldn't do something like this. I just acknowledge the difference of opinion and walk away. But it's when people resort to personal attacks that I have a problem. Or especially when they resort to complete lies, basically accusing you of something that's not even remotely true. Yeah, this guy is honestly a bit douchey. I mean, most of the people I've talked to about anime and everything are generally pretty cool people. Even when they disagree, they're respectful. But this guy had to come right off with the personal attacks. And since he decided to go on such a tirade against me, and accuse me of things that aren't true, I feel like I should respond by tearing apart his arguments. Also, if you do have any requests for commentaries, let me know. I'm going to go through this illogical video and call this guy out completely, point by point.
Did it come from Japan? No. Okay. Are the creators even Asian? No. Okay. Stop calling it an anime. It's cringy as fuck. Really?
Well, he has a point. The guy he's quoting does have a point. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have been that blunt or rude about it. But really, BobSamurai likely chose the most angry, hateful, irrational comment as a means to represent all people who argue this subject with him.
What's up everybody, I'm BobSamurai, and if you'd like to join our friendly community and experience the timeless wonder of film and animation, then hit that subscribe button.
No thank you. Skip.
Because I'm bringing you all several new videos a week and a live stream every night, so let's begin. So today we're going to be talking about the meaning of anime.
Well, the meaning of anime? It's quite simple. If you Google it, it will tell you very simply, anime, noun, the style of Japanese film and television animation, typically aimed at adults as well as children.
And what it basically applies to, because I reviewed Avatar: The Last Airbender recently, and I did this. This is what I'm doing for the next few weeks, and I just blew through this anime, and I loved it so much. If there's anything that I could consider to be a total package, it's Avatar: The Last Airbender.
If you love Avatar so much, why don't you marry it? No, seriously though, I mean, you may like it, and that's fine, but just because you like it doesn't mean it's anime. It's that simple. I mean, I love King of the Hill. It's one of my favorite shows. But that doesn't make it anime. Anyway, before we continue, I just want to give my opinions on Avatar before anyone, says anything about it, because I know someone's going to ask about it. Because, to me, it was good. Not great. A little boring, the story was bland, and it was a little too long. The main antagonist, Ozai, is terrible, and it's a bit too childish. I mean, it's trying to tell its grand story, but it's held back considerably because of the PG rating. And, in general, it's just very cheesy. But I do give it props for having a flowing narrative and not being purely episodic like most Western animation. Although the main character is very overpowered, there's a bit too much of a focus on emulating shonen anime and not trying to stand on its own merit. It's like when a musician tries to do a cover of an already good song. God bless them for trying, but they just put too much focus on trying to emulate the original and be like them instead of focusing on their own talents and what they can do. Plus, to be honest, the animation is pretty trashy. But overall, it makes a decent fantasy adventure story for kids, but honestly, I just couldn't really get into it. Plus, the fan base is just absolutely awful. Lots of fanboys who treat it as if it's like the second coming of Jesus or something. But yeah, I don't care how much you liked Avatar. I liked it, but I consider it more average. I'd give it a 5 or a 6 out of 10, although you'd probably give it a perfect score, fanboy. And I'm not going to call you stupid for thinking it's the greatest thing ever. However, you apparently like to insult people who don't think the same way you do. If your reply to my comment is any indication.
So I called Avatar: The Last Airbender an anime, and I don't see what the big deal is about it.
Because it's inaccurate. What you're saying is wrong. It's like if you were talking about, SpongeBob and ended your video with, SpongeBob is my favorite horror series of all time.
But there were about a dozen people in the comments section who took offense and practically gave themselves a butthole ulcer from clenching it so tight because...
No. We just wanted to correct you on a mistake you made. If an internet personality makes a mistake in a video, their audience will, 9 times out of 10, correct them.
Because I associated one word with another word, and here we are today talking about the definition of anime.
Didn't I just give you the definition?
What it means to be an anime, and if Western cartoons can be considered anime.
No, they can't. And I'll get to why soon.
And out of all the people trying to school me, it's really sad because this can be solved by a simple Google search. Look up anime, how it's written in Japan. You'll easily find that it is written in katakana. And for everybody out there trying to school me, katakana means that it is something of foreign origin. That means they didn't come up with it in Japan.
Okay, whoa. So the word origin and what it meant back in the day don't mean anything now, okay? Words and meanings change constantly. Anime is pretty much slang for Japanese animation. Nowadays, like the past 20 years or so. I'm thinking. I don't know, 30 years? Something. But I mean, words change. Like, cool. Well, cool means something awesome or exciting. But it used to mean something that was cold to touch. So, by your logic, if I say, that dirt bike is so cool, I'm saying the dirt bike is cold. By your logic, at least. Because that was the word's original meaning, and that's such a stupid argument, really. And to be honest, the origin of a word is inherently meaningless. Just mere trivia. A fun fact, if you will.
Basically, even if you were to watch old anime, which I always preach to people, you gotta understand the basics of anime, go back to the roots of it, you'd understand that even Miyazaki back in the day was taking a lot of influence from Disney cartoons.
I just love how when anyone talks about this sort of thing, they always bring up how one guy took inspiration from Disney films such a long time ago. You know, almost everything in media is inspired by something else. It doesn't matter how they were inspired by Disney, because that's not the case anymore. Anime has changed drastically and evolved so much since then.
Anime is just a shortening of the word animation, and
yes, it is. But it's still a whole new word with a whole new meaning that's changed over time. Nowadays, anime refers to as animation from Japan.
People are just getting their nipples all tied in a knot over here over somebody shortening a word and applying it to something else. What if I don't want to say this is an animation all the time? What if I don't want to say this is a cartoon? What if I just want to call it an anime because that's what's easy?
Because it's simply incorrect. Nowadays, anime is a term to differentiate animation from Japan from animation in the US. Just like how when I say Western animation, I use that to denote animation from the United States and Canada. They're two different things. Like in horror, Dracula and Friday the 13th are both horror, but they couldn't be any more different. Dracula is more of a thriller, with emphasis on creepy scenery and a creepy atmosphere, while Friday the 13th is more of a slasher-style horror, with emphasis on a body count and gruesome deaths. So even though they're both horror, Dracula is not a slasher. So if I made a video saying, Dracula is my favorite slasher movie, that'd be wrong, because Dracula is not a slasher, just like how Avatar is not an anime.
Again, that's also what's applicable, because anime just means animation. Like, say, for example, how many of you out there have a Toshiba television? Do you call it a television, or do you call it a TV? Of course, you call it a TV because you want to shorten the word. Well, how about this? It's from Japan, so why don't you call it a terebi? Because that's what they call it in Japan, and it came from Japan, so apparently you're doing some sort of disservice by not using the appropriate name by it. Or Legend of Zelda. I got this beautiful Legend of Zelda wallpaper back here. Is Legend of Zelda a video game, or is it a terebi game? Terebi game.
Okay, we don't refer to games and TVs as their Japanese names because there's no reason to. When we refer to Japanese games, we just call them that. Japanese games. When we refer to Japanese animation, or Japanese cartoons, we always say anime. That's just the synonymous term. But there is something we do refer to the Japanese word for. Car brands. We generally refer to car brands as their original foreign name. You know, we don't translate Toyota or Audi. I mean, Toyota is a Japanese brand. We refer to it as Toyota. While it is a car, it is also a Toyota car. And does referring to a Toyota Lexus as a Toyota make someone a weeaboo? No, it doesn't. But what you were doing It's as if someone looked at a Toyota car and said, "Hey, that's a nice Ford you have there." Well, yes, Ford is also a car brand. Toyota is a car brand too, but Ford is not a Toyota. We refer to Japanese cartoons as anime because that's what anime means now. What the word meant 50 years ago means nothing now. Words and meanings of them change all the time. Like clue. Nowadays, clue generally means like a hint or a tip. But a long time ago, clue used to mean a ball of yarn. Do you still refer to balls of yarn as a clue? No. Words change. Cultures change. It happens.
Terebi gamer. That's what it sounds like to be a weeaboo. And some people even will correct me on the pronunciation of anime. Oh, it's not anime, it's anime.
You know, I actually kind of agree with that. People who complain about the pronunciation of words are incredibly annoying. Like when someone pronounces bury as berry and everyone just goes apeshit about it. I mean, personally, as long as you understand what someone's saying, there's no purpose in complaining about how they pronounce it. But back to the video.
And basically all people are doing in that situation is they're taking a Western word, they're taking an English word, they're pronouncing it in a Japanese accent, shortening it, and then pronouncing that in an English accent or an American accent or wherever you're from. That's all it is. It's very counterintuitive. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and people are just really mystifying the word anime. And I guess, yes, in the layman's sense of the word, yeah, anime is from Japan. That's what everybody associates it with, so it's just easy to go with that. But at the same time, isn't it just easy to not be bothered by somebody calling something that's not from Japan anime?
Wow. You just don't get the internet, do you? No. When someone online makes a factual error, their viewers will call them out on it. Always. Like recently, there was a video by What Culture, where they said WrestleMania debuted a year after Starrcade. Starrcade made its debut in 83, WrestleMania in 85, so they got their facts wrong. And to us fans, it's incredibly annoying when someone presents themselves as an authority on a subject and act like that they know better than everyone else, be it wrestling, anime, gaming, what have you, and they don't know the most basic of facts about it. Anime is something we love. It's something we're passionate about, and if you make a video and act and present yourself as someone who knows everything, but really doesn't know anything, of course we'll call you out on it.
Even though anime is short for the word animation, and it's written in katakana, which indicates that it's something of foreign origin. I don't live in Japan or anything, but I'm about 90% sure that if you go over there to Japan and ask some people if SpongeBob SquarePants or Powerpuff Girls or Avatar The Last Airbender are anime, they would likely say yes, it is a American anime, because that's what the word means. They know their language a lot better than I do.
Okay, sometimes different cultures appropriate a word and change its meaning. Just because a word means one thing in one part of the world doesn't mean it can't mean something somewhere else. Like in most Spanish-speaking countries, cafe means coffee. But to us Americans, cafe generally means a small restaurant. Or in England, the trunk of a car is always referred to as the boot. However, in America, a boot is a style of footwear. So what you are arguing is that people who refer to boots as footwear are wrong. To an English person, the boot is a trunk, just like how to a Japanese person, anime is simply animation. But to an American, a boot is a style of footwear, just like how to an American, anime is Japanese animation.
And they definitely know that katakana means that's something of foreign origin. Therefore, it's something that existed in another country before it existed in Japan. So the original anime didn't even come from Japan. So,
as I've already said countless times, the origin of a word has no inflection on the current definition. Words change.
It's just a mind-boggling thing to think that so many people are getting upset about the word and butthurt about it, arguing about the definition of a word. And I guess to some extent you could say that that's what I do sometimes, because I think anime just applies to animation.
Except it doesn't. I've debunked this multiple times in this video, and I'll debunk it again at the end.
And on top of that, I also think the word otaku, if you were to look that word up as well, the definition of that, I talk about this all the time, it means someone who's obsessed with something to the extent of social detriment, because the word in Japan comes from the word house, meaning somebody who doesn't leave the house.
So, in Japan, that's what it translates to. Yes. But Americans have appropriated that word to mean something different. The etymology of a word is pure trivia. It holds no bearing to what it means. I mean, otaku is a foreign phrase, like faux pas. In its original French translation, faux pas means to stumble. But us Americans have appropriated that phrase to mean any social error in general.
That's what otaku means, but everyone wants to come up with their own definition of a word and argue about it and whatnot.
No, that's not even funny. That's not laughable at all.
Wow. So you assume all anime fans are pedophiles. Yeah, that's not a generalization at all. I don't know where he's coming up with that. Well, actually, I do. He's pulling it right out of his butt. But it's kind of par for the course for this channel.
Is it a coincidence, or am I onto something when I say that the anime community is always arguing semantics about something that I feel is generally common sense, and also the fact that the majority of otaku are antisocial? I guess you could say that by making this video, I'm also participating in the whole semantic arguments that's going around, but I'm not being an asshole.
Yeah. If anybody read your reply to my comment, they clearly see you are.
And not being an asshole is 90% of the battle right there. So anyways, what do you think about the topic right here? Do you think that anime applies to cartoons of the West? And by the way, anime is just a cartoon. Just in case your butthole's not clenched up enough, it's a cartoon.
Yes, anime is a cartoon. A cartoon that originates from Japan. Anime is used as a term to denote animation from Japan.
If you say anime is not a cartoon, it's basically like saying a koi is not a fish because it comes from Japan. Anyways,
alright, that is the end of the video. Well, except for the part where he sells out and begs you to like and subscribe to his drivel. But I don't care about that. Plus, to me, whenever someone does that, it's actually incredibly annoying. Because if people like your video, they're going to subscribe to you and like your videos anyway. But when you beg people to subscribe, it just sounds pathetic. Kind of reminds me of that clip of Squidward.
Spare change. Spare change, ma'am.
thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Stay classy, everybody, and don't be an asshole.
Yeah, take your own advice, pal. Okay, as I said, here I will debunk his argument. Because the basic argument of this video is that anime means all animation in Japan. Therefore, American cartoons are anime. Cartoons are a broad term for all animation, but you can't call Western animation anime the same way you can't call anime Western animation. They aren't the same thing. Western animation and anime are two completely different things. They're made in two different parts of the world, by two different cultures, for two completely different fan bases. They're both cartoons, but you can't just say American cartoons are exactly the same as anime. They're not for comparing, okay? Let's apply his logic elsewhere. I mean, comparing anime and cartoons. Let's try some other comparisons like that. It's like comparing steak and vegetables. While yes, they're both food, they don't cross over. Steak is not a vegetable, and vegetables are not steak. How about video games? Mario is a Nintendo character. Sonic is a Sega character. They're both video game characters, so I guess Sonic is a Nintendo character then. Oh, here's a good one. I live in the United States, which is part of North America. So, by your logic, does that mean I'm Canadian? Because Canada and the United States are both part of North America, after all. Remember what I said in the last video? People who make these kind of statements are generally hipsters who want to sound edgy and controversial. But really, his argument just doesn't hold up to greater scrutiny. Before I finish off here, I want to polish off some other common arguments that Avatar is an anime. This is one that didn't really come up in the video. He didn't really mention it. Is that Avatar uses a lot of tropes in common with other shonen anime. Therefore, it's an anime. So let's debunk that one really quick, just for the heck of it. Why yes, Avatar's art style is very reminiscent of anime, and while it does have some very common story elements with anime, it's not anime. It's inspired by anime. If you don't understand, let me explain. Country music and rock and roll. They aren't the same thing. They're two different kinds of music. But let's say a country star, say Taylor Swift or something, takes some inspiration from rock music for one of her songs. Does that mean Taylor Swift is a rock star? No, it doesn't. But let's say there's a painter. in 2018. And he's inspired by the work of... let's say there's a painter in 2018 who's inspired by the artwork of the Renaissance period. So if he paints something that's similar in style and heavily inspired by paintings from the Renaissance period, is his work a Renaissance painting? No, it isn't. How about French films? French films have to come from France. Otherwise, they aren't French films. Since anime is another word for Japanese cartoon, it has to come from Japan. You see, a French film has to be made in France. So, something like The Untouchables is a French film because it's primarily filmed in France for a majority French audience. Its country of origin is France. However, Richard Pryor's The Toy is inspired by a French film called Les Jouets. I can't pronounce that, never mind. Sorry to all my French viewers out there. So, is it a French film as well, just because it's inspired by one? No, it isn't. You know something else? Star Wars. Star Wars, when you think about it, does have a lot of tropes and inspiration from various classic westerns. So is Star Wars a western? No. While I'm at it, let's just debunk another common argument. Both Western animation and anime outsource a majority of their animation to Korea. Therefore, Western animation is anime. Okay, that's a flawed argument because it's not even an argument. That's stupid. First of all, in retrospect, to be honest, the animation is just one part of the bigger puzzle of making an anime. There's the script writing, the voice acting, the editing, and so much more. If most of the other work is done in Japan, then it's anime. It's like saying Apple is not an American company just because it outsources some of its manufacturing jobs to China. But really, they're headquartered in America. A majority of their marketing and selling is done in America, so they're an American company. That's stupid. Needless to say, the video I just watched was completely illogical and stupid with no credibility attached. Now, final word. I want to address you personally, BobSamurai. You have no idea what you are talking about. You have no knowledge of anime. You make us all look bad with your lack of research, your warped facts, and overall idiotic statements, not to mention your major attitude problem. You insult a medium that is dear to me and several other true anime fans. You are pretty much the irate gamer of anime, and you are an insult to our community.